What if I told you the Pentagon has plans to invade to sovereign nations Greenland and Panama? It might sound like something from a Cold War-era thriller, but this isn't a movie plot or a satire sketch. This is a sitting U.S. Secretary of Defense openly discussing military strategies to take these territories by force. And the scariest part, he didn't flinch. No outrage, no clarification, just a chillingly casual acknowledgement that the Pentagon is ready to act. This is the new reality under Trump's Pentagon. In a recent congressional hearing, Pete Hegseth, the U.S. Secretary of Defense, made a statement that shocked the nation. He openly acknowledged that the Pentagon has plans in place to take Greenland.
Recognize the ranking member.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just on the budget point, I made this point before the committee before. The House just passed a budget that adds nearly $3 trillion to an already out-of-control debt. So if we do really want to spend money on defense or anywhere else, we ought to be willing to pay for it. And I certainly go back through generations of bipartisan problems with this. You can't have a debt that size and keep coming back talking about how much money you're going to spend, whether it's defense or whatever your priorities are. And Mr. Secretary, you said the 99% down on border crossings and the border is secure. At the same time, we're going to take $1 billion out of the MILCON budget, out of building barracks, to send it for the border, and there's another 4,000 troops that we're planning on sending down to the border. Given that the border is secure, might you rethink that spending?
Well, sir, we are securing it. It is secure, but it's a manpower-intensive effort at the beginning.
Two different words there. It's either secure or secure. And it sounded to me like you said it was secure.
It is secure.
Okay.
What we're continuing to do is expand that and fortify it through infrastructure, which is a big part of the budget on the Department of Homeland Security side as well. So it's that $1 billion you're talking about was from the CR in FY25. We fully fund that back and more in FY26 with a recognition that we were dealing with the world as it existed when we came in. And the previous administration said they needed new legislation to secure the border. It turns out you just needed a new president.
I would point out
president
that
with
you
the
have not
Defense Department and
submitted,
DHS that was willing to go to the border and actually
have
secure it, which is what we
not submitted a budget yet. So whether or not you're putting that money back in remains to be seen. You have definitely taken it out. And I think the obsession there, and I don't disagree, the border needed to be secure. But from a pure budget standpoint, let's just not keep the political focus on that. Let's make sure that we're funding some of the other priorities that we have. So when it comes back to acquisition reform, and the chairman's point, it's our committee, certainly Congress is part of the problem. We set up a lot of requirements. Defense contractors are part of the problem. I'm curious, how would you get after reforming the culture at the Pentagon so that you can move faster, number one, and number two, how would you get after the defense contractors that push the requirements process? And specifically, what would you do about the requirements process to try to speed things up?
Well, first of all, I think gold plating is a real problem, sir. I mean, across the department.
Interesting to use the word gold in this particular context, but yes, I agree with you, actually.
We maybe could use a little bit more silver plating on occasion. A recognition that the 99% solution is oftentimes the enemy of the 85% solution that delivers 2 years sooner. And that's contractors and other companies wanting to do right, but trying to do too much and overpromise, and then they're under-delivering, and the warfighter
not always wanting to do right. In some cases, just wanting to make money, but yes.
The change is also in acquisitions about people. You need reformers in these positions. I'm here to be a disruptor of those processes. Our deputy secretary has extensive business experience. The types of people we're bringing in as undersecretaries have been disruptors and innovators in the private sector who recognize that bureaucracy can be dysfunctional and needs to be disrupted. So it's taking outside-the-box unique approaches. I mean, virtual design is a big example. How many times are we going to build something physically that takes a year to build when you could use AI and computing power, design it virtually, identify the flaws, and move more quickly, or create open architecture so you can move.
Our committee stands ready to work with you.
I mean, there's 500 different things we can do, and we're doing them.
Yeah, and I'm sincerely concerned about this. Is it the policy of the Department of Defense that we need to be prepared to take Greenland and Panama by force if necessary? Is this a policy that you have within the Department of Defense in accordance with the President's wishes?
I heard what you said about those two countries and saying we need to worry about China. Well, we are worried about China.
That wasn't my concern.
China's malign influence in Panama.
I was
the recognition
concerned with
that if
us
China has
saying
control of
that
the
using
ports
military
or
force
malign
to take
influence
another
over the
sovereign
Panama,
country's
we
territory.
should pay attention to that.
Right.
So Panama is very key terrain that we've focused on, and we've been willing to focus
So we
on,
should
as
take it.
is Greenland
We should
key
take
terrain.
it by military force. They're important. I'm not going to
Arctic-
argue with
the
that.
Arctic is
I'm
incredibly
arguing with
important,
the
and
using
adversaries are
our
trying to
military
gain-
to take it by force.
Our job at the DOD is to have plans. And
Do you have a
lot-
plan for that?
Our job at the Defense Department is to have plans for any particular contingency.
Including the contingency of basically
Any
invading
contingency
Denmark.
you need, we've got it. We've got a building full of planners, and we're prepared to give recommendations whenever needed.
So just be clear, you have plans to take Panama and Greenland by force if necessary.
I think the American people would want the Pentagon to have plans for any particular contingency.
Not
and
for them,
thankfully,
in
we
my
are in the
opinion.
planning business.
Speaking on behalf of the American people, I don't think the American people voted for President Trump because they were hoping we would invade Greenland. I'm going to go out on a limb on that one. I yield back.
In Panama by military force, if necessary. This wasn't a slip of the tongue or a joke, he said it with complete seriousness. In response to a congressman's inquiry, Hegseth casually confirmed that the military is ready to act, without any hesitation or clarification about the implications of such a move. Imagine that two sovereign countries, both key players in international relations, now seemingly on the Pentagon's radar for military intervention. This is real, and it's chilling. Under the leadership of former President Trump, the Pentagon has shifted its focus to a startling new priority: military readiness for the invasion of sovereign nations like Greenland and Panama. These are not rogue, unimportant territories, they are strategically significant. With Greenland being a part of NATO's defense structure, and Panama controlling the critical Panama Canal, the Pentagon's willingness to entertain such drastic measures suggests a concerning escalation in U.S. foreign policy, where military action is seen as a potential solution, rather than diplomacy or international cooperation. This move raises major questions. Are we preparing for an era of military adventurism that disregards the sovereignty of other nations? While the Pentagon is busy drafting plans for potential invasions of Greenland and Panama, there's another major issue at home: securing the U.S. border. The Trump administration has prioritized military intervention abroad while simultaneously redirecting resources meant for domestic defense. The debate over the border wall continues, with billions of dollars pulled from military construction budgets to fund it. But here's the kicker. Hegseth has repeatedly stated that the border is secure, yet the military remains fixated on external threats. How can we justify spending on overseas conflicts while domestic security and vital military infrastructure, like troop housing, are neglected? It's a troubling contradiction that raises serious concerns. When questioned about the Pentagon's readiness to invade Greenland and Panama, Hegseth's response was chilling in its casualness. There was no outrage, no clarification, just a flat confirmation: we have plans for everything. This nonchalant attitude toward potential military aggression reveals a disturbing trend: the normalization of military intervention without regard for the consequences. Imagine the impact of such statements on global diplomacy. Instead of addressing the real concerns about U.S. military overreach, Hegseth brushed off the issue as just another contingency plan. His indifference speaks volumes about how the current administration views military power as a tool to flex without considering the political or humanitarian fallout. Hegseth's statements are more than just a shock, they're part of a larger pattern that points to a growing militarization of U.S. foreign policy. The Pentagon's willingness to entertain plans to invade foreign nations like Greenland and Panama shows an alarming shift away from diplomacy and toward military dominance. This isn't just about national defense, it's about the global ambition to exert power and control over strategic territories. With rising tensions in the Arctic and global trade routes, the idea of military conquest isn't as far-fetched as it once seemed. The Pentagon seems to be preparing for a new era of interventionism, one where sovereignty is secondary to strategic dominance. The real danger of casually discussing military intervention in sovereign countries lies in the precedent it sets. When military aggression becomes normalized, it chips away at the very principles that the United States has long claimed to uphold: sovereignty, international law, and diplomacy. Hegseth's statement, while brushed off as just plans, sends a message to the world that the U.S. is willing to ignore these foundational values when it suits its interests. If this kind of rhetoric becomes standard, the line between strategic defense and outright conquest becomes dangerously thin. And once military power is used as a first resort, global stability is at risk of unraveling. Under the Trump administration, the Pentagon has evolved into a force more driven by personal ideologies than global cooperation. Hegseth's willingness to entertain military plans for Greenland and Panama aligns with Trump's own past rhetoric, which included the controversial idea of purchasing Greenland. This pattern of aggressive unilateral action reflects the broader worldview that shaped Trump's foreign policy, one where military might often trumps diplomacy. It's not just about protecting national security, it's about asserting American dominance on the world stage. Under this approach, countries that don't fall in line with U.S. interests could soon find themselves targets for military intervention, regardless of international law. While the Pentagon is busy strategizing military operations to take territories like Greenland and Panama, the department is failing on fundamental fronts. The defense budget is months late, and the Pentagon still hasn't passed an audit year after year. Despite this, Hegseth and his team continue to request billions, citing plans for every conceivable scenario. This obsession with military aggression is coming at a steep price. Funds meant for troop housing, military construction, and defense innovation are being diverted to ideas that border on fantasy. It's a system in crisis, where the military's focus is increasingly on global conquest rather than fixing the broken systems at home. So, what's the big takeaway from all of this? This isn't just about the Pentagon drafting plans for potential invasions, it's about the shift in how military power is perceived and used. What we're seeing is the rise of a dangerous mindset where military intervention is seen as an easy solution to global issues, rather than a last resort. The normalization of such talk about taking over sovereign nations undermines the principles that the U.S. once championed. This could lead us down a path where military conquest becomes an accepted norm, and if the American people don't start demanding answers and accountability, the consequences could be catastrophic, both at home and abroad. If this video stunned you as much as it did us, then it's time to speak up. The Pentagon's casual approach to military aggression and its obsession with expanding U.S. influence at any cost must not go unchallenged. Share this video to raise awareness, drop a comment to voice your concerns, and hit that subscribe button to stay informed. In an era where nothing seems off the table, we need to ensure that the American people have a say in the direction of our military power. This isn't just about Greenland or Panama, it's about the future of how the U.S. interacts with the world. Stand up now, or risk being left behind.